Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video. I'm a 26-year-old woman. I met my husband, 25, and we were both in high school. Me and my husband have always gotten along well. Our relationship has been perfect in every aspect. Although I would not say we were the same, as we came from very different backgrounds, financially and by the way we were both brought up. I belong to a family coming from lower middle class. My family has worked very hard to come to where they are, whereas my husband, his family came from generational wealth. Even though we had our differences, I can proudly say that we worked through them. But this did not seem like the case for my husband's family, specifically my mother-in-law. She has always treated me like I didn't belong in the family because of my financial background. All throughout our relationship, even though I did not visit my husband's family often, my mother-in-law made sure to make me feel as excluded as she possibly could. I was always made to feel like I didn't belong simply because of my financial status. This was done by making snide remarks, from taunting my dressing, my tastes, and at one point even my parents. My mother-in-law made sure to take every single opportunity to make me feel like I wasn't welcomed or wanted here. I suspected this was mainly due to the fact that mother-in-law wanted my husband to get married to my sister-in-law's best friend, who she believed was the perfect daughter-in-law material. As someone who was brought up to try and adjust with people, I did everything I could to fit in by trying to like the same things as them, trying to spend time with my mother-in-law, and everything you could possibly think of you could do to build a stronger relationship. These efforts were always met with being ignored or were hit with another insulting comment about how I clearly did not know enough to like what I did. I know many of you at this point would suggest me to talk to my husband about this, and I have. Ever since this all started, I have made sure to try and explain to my husband with the best of my abilities on numerous occasions about everything that's been going on. And I think he did not ever understand the depth of the situation. He believed that everything mother-in-law had ever said was just friendly banter and would brush me off every time I brought anything up about my in-laws, which at one point I had just stopped until something happened that changed my husband. Around the time my husband and I were married for 5 months, my mother-in-law decided to throw a huge 50th birthday party. I'd say it was even bigger than our wedding. I had heard a lot about the party even before my husband and I had got married, as that's how long mother-in-law was planning it for. Her guest list was huge, and so it also acted as a sort of get-together for my husband's family. My husband was quite excited for them, as he said he wanted to introduce me to the relatives who were unable to attend our wedding. However, mother-in-law had completely different plans. On the day of the party, when my husband and I arrived, I was told by the security that I wasn't invited to the party. Confused, me and my husband were shocked, as we asked them to recheck a couple of times to make sure that there wasn't some misunderstanding. I mean, I knew my mother-in-law didn't like me, but clearly did not know that this was the extent of it. I urged my husband to go to the party as it would be important for him and my mother-in-law, but my husband had different plans. He walked into the party venue with anger in his eyes. By what I was told by sister-in-law, my husband had confronted my mother-in-law in front of the entire family present, and my mother-in-law had a look of shock as my husband had never spoken to her this way before. When she realized that she had messed up, she tried to backtrack by telling him that she had forgotten to invite me. My husband called her out on her bluff, as he knew that he had seen her check the guest list multiple times in front of him and that there is no reason why she would forget her own daughter-in-law. This made my mother-in-law quiet down some more, as my husband went on to call her out on everything that she had done to me so far. At that point, my brother-in-law jumped in to quiet my husband down and help the argument de-escalate. My husband told my mother-in-law that he was tired of siding with her and trying to understand her when she is clearly not a good person, and that left my mother-in-law in tears as she was just looking out for her precious son. My husband gave me multiple apologies on our way back and told me that he wanted to go low contact with mother-in-law, at least until we had sorted this out. I agreed with him and had some more discussions about the issue. Things started going on much smoothly after that. Even though mother-in-law would often call me to berate me for separating my son from her through my manipulative tactics, I was able to ignore much of her. We had completely stopped visiting them and would only contact through sister-in-law or brother-in-law. When Christmas arrived, my mother-in-law knew that she had to bring my husband to the family dinner. Otherwise, that would enrage his grandparents. So through a fake apology, she got my husband to join them for the Christmas dinner. Christmas came when mother-in-law knew that she did not have to slip up or it would go terribly for her. Mother-in-law was afraid of my husband's grandparents as they did not hesitate to call out on her entitled behavior. They are amazing people who we unfortunately mostly only get to meet during Christmas due to their health issues. So as a result, Christmas went as normally as it could, and just like that, a year had passed since me and my husband got married. Hooray! We decided to throw a small party get-together to celebrate the occasion. My husband, not being much of a planner, I decided to take over and come up with a small backyard party inviting everyone near and dear to us except for mother-in-law. My husband knew of that, and although was a little hesitant at first, agreed with me because he knew there were high chances that my mother-in-law would create a scene. However, when I brought this up to my mother while discussing the party, she disagreed with me, saying that it's wrong for me to distance my husband from his own mother, and that is the last thing I would like to do, which is what brings me here. AITA for wanting to uninvite my mother-in-law from my party, partly because she did not invite me to hers, and to avoid any chances of her creating a scene. After reading all your comments, I got the reassurance I needed. I believe what my mom said was out of their upbringing of wanting to hold the family together regardless of their mistakes. I think as much as it's important to do so, I also know that it shouldn't come at the expense of my own mental well-being. So the day of the party came and everything had been going smoothly according to plan. We had a lot of fun with the people closest to our hearts and were able to celebrate a day of our love without being judged. No one really bothered to ask about my mother-in-law as they all knew what had gone down during her party except for a few of my husband's cousins, who we filled in about what went down. This was all until mother-in-law figured out that she wasn't invited to the party. Not sure how she found it, but I believe it was through Facebook posts or some relatives. She started blowing up our phones one by one as she figured no one was going to answer her. She decided to show up at our door, demanding to know why she wasn't invited. My husband escorted her out of our house and told her the exact reason why she wasn't invited, which was herself. My mother-in-law pleaded a couple of times before she decided to leave, which was quite surprising as that was very much unlike her, but we figured she just understood and that was the end of it. However, unfortunately, it was not. The party continued for another 30 minutes before the cops pulled up, demanding us to stop the music and explain why we were being so loud. This confused us as we knew we put music on but stayed at our limits. We explained to the cops how we can show them footage of the entire party as we had security cameras installed all throughout our house, to which the cops agreed to, and after watching the entire footage, they were pretty much convinced that we were within our limits. To be sure, they also visited our neighbors to inquire about the same. The cops then told us that this was a case of false reports and that I had the basis to file for harassment charges, to which I said I would if I needed to, and thanked them as they left. This had bittered the party mood, and we just started to wind up. My sister-in-law, who was there at the time when I was talking to the cops, asked me if I was really going to press charges. I said I might, as my mother-in-law was going to extreme extents to make my life miserable. My sister-in-law started going off about how it was unfair, and my mother-in-law just wanted to be included. She completely flipped out on me, yelling about how her mother had only changed because I had entered into my husband's life. She said all of this as we had a small back and forth before she left. This shocked and surprised us. So far, me and my sister-in-law had been getting along just fine. I'm tired of all this drama and of the fact that my husband isn't standing up for me as much as he should. Would I be wrong for pressing harassment charges against my mother-in-law? Is there a peaceful route to take to resolve this situation? Hi all. I've decided to press charges against my mother-in-law as I cannot handle the blatant disrespect my husband's family has been showing to me. Reading your comments made me realize I don't deserve this sort of treatment. I sat my husband down and showed him all your comments to see if he realizes the same, and thankfully he does. He told me that reading all these comments helped him open his eyes, as he did not know the extent of his mother's ill treatment towards me until he read it all combined. He apologized to me profusely as he said he would do better as a husband to stand up for me. And honestly, I cannot thank you all enough for this. My husband and I started off by calling my mother-in-law and informing her that we are going to be cutting off contact with her for a while now. Mother-in-law tried to manipulate my husband through her crocodile tears, but he did not take any of it. We did the same with sister-in-law, and she agreed while apologizing, which felt good to hear that at least someone in this house has a sense of right and wrong. I have decided to go to the cops later today to file a report. I'm not sure what would come out of it, but hopefully it is something that scares my mother-in-law to not mess with the cops for a while now. Thank you so much for your advice once again. NTA, although it is a little petty and revengeful, mother-in-law deserves to not be invited to any event where people are celebrating the love that she does not accept. Mother-in-law needs to stop disliking OP and start being happy for her son, unless she wants to lose the opportunity of seeing her grandchildren. Also, what is up with OP's husband? He needs to grow a spine and start standing up more for his wife. He seems like he enjoys being a mama's boy too much. NTA, for wanting to report mother-in-law, she seems like a piece of work to stay with, and her family enables her behavior. Don't be like that and keep standing up for yourself. Maybe if she should have not been a classist and respected your relationship, she wouldn't have been left out. Sister-in-law can join mother-in-law at being alone too, if she's so interested in defending her mother. To be clear, I don't care about gender roles. Mother-in-law does to a certain extent. And while she would be accepting of a teenager coming out as trans or non-binary, she is pretty into gender with younger kids and thinks that society is confusing kids with all the gender-neutral stuff. We don't see mother-in-law very much. She just isn't interested in our lives. The only reason this annoys me is because she used to hound me for grandkids, and obviously that isn't why I had kids. But she led me to believe that we would be getting family support, and then she disappeared. I don't know why I am even surprised. She has always been a flake. We have a beautiful 1-year-old boy who we chose to name Avery because we love it. I know it is considered more of a girl's name, but it was originally a boy's name and we really liked it. Mother-in-law met him once at the hospital for about 15 minutes and hasn't seen him since, except in passing one time at a party at her dad's house, which, to be fair, he was wearing yellow. Mother-in-law apparently thought that he was a girl, so she showed up to his first birthday with a large pink fairy-themed baby tent. I don't know what they are exactly called, but a tent-like thing with multiple tunnels to crawl through. And a pair of diamond earrings because she wanted to be the first person to buy her diamonds even if she can't wear them yet. When mother-in-law walked in, she looked hella confused. We had a blue pirate theme. Mother-in-law explained the mix-up to me and apologized for the gifts. Her husband thought it was hilarious and I couldn't help it and began laughing. She glared at me and said that she would return the gifts, but I said no, it was fine. We aren't super into gender anyway. I took the tent, but not the earrings, she can return those due to the price, and put it on the table with the other gifts. Mother-in-law told me not to and that I was being a child. I told her it is a nice gift either way, and if she didn't know her grandchild's gender, that is on her. I couldn't help it, and I laughed again, but assured her it was fine and told her to go and enjoy the party. She did get laughed a lot by other people and had to admit that she is a very, very uninvolved grandmother. When she left, she told me that I did that on purpose to humiliate her, and I shouldn't have laughed. Because what about her feelings? And putting the gift on display was cruel. She accused me of thinking that her life needs to revolve around my baby and stormed off. My husband thought it was funny, but also that she might be touchy because she's very image conscious and her ex was there, who is a great grandfather. She didn't know the gender of her own grandchild for a year? Or is this some passive-aggressive bullshit because she thinks his name is too feminine? Either way, holy crap, you are so NTA. So I, a 22-year-old woman, am infertile. It's kind of a long story as to why, but the short of it is that I was pregnant and damaged my body so badly, I had to have a full hysterectomy. So I can't have kids, but I have never wanted them anyway, so it isn't a big deal to me emotionally, for the most part. What does grate on me is when I tell people I'm not having kids and they push me about it. I don't outright tell them I can't have kids, usually, because that is personal and seems unnecessary. Recently, one of my friends got engaged, and at the engagement dinner, family and close friends, the topic of kids came up. Eventually, the conversation turned to me, and my friend's mom asked me how many kids I wanted. I gave the typical answer, "Oh, I'm actually not having kids," and expected it to end there. It didn't. Instead, she pushed me, saying things about how she was sure I'd changed my mind, that she didn't want kids when she was younger either, etc. My friends started looking pretty uncomfortable at this point because they know about my infertility. Eventually, after trying repeatedly to obfuscate, change the subject, etc., I told her, even if I wanted kids, I can't have any, and then proceeded to tell her why in great detail, including the pain I went through losing the pregnancy, like all of it. Obviously, this made dinner very uncomfortable. I chose to remove myself and politely told my friends goodbye. Since I left yesterday, I have gotten a barrage of texts, calls from my friends telling me what an a-hole move that was, that I didn't need to share such personal info, etc. I don't think I'm in the wrong here, mostly because her mom had plenty of chances to drop the subject and leave me alone, but she chose to push instead. My inability to have children is my own thing, and it pisses me off that people won't just leave me and my childlessness be. But I did share some pretty grotesque stuff. So, I don't know, AITA? Maybe she'll learn a lesson from this. Everybody doesn't have to be subject to her opinions and judgments. This is right up there with discussing politics and pushing someone on it at a social gathering. It's just rude and makes everyone uncomfortable. She asked for it by not taking a hint, and you gave it to her. NTA.